Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today is November 3rd and today we are talking about the new poll that came out of Iowa just yesterday that's made this election cycle a whole lot more confusing. The poll in question here is the Des Moines Register poll done by Ann Selzer that shows that Kamala Harris is leading Trump in the state of Iowa by 3 points. Let me just repeat that. Kamala Harris is leading in the state of Iowa that has voted Republican the last two election cycles by 3 points. This poll was done October 28th to 31st with 808 likely voters, some of whom had already voted. And then the MOE is 3.4%. But that is insane if that is true. If Harris is going to win the state by 3 points, that is extremely just a game changer. It's going to change the entire election. Now let's look at this poll. So it's considered the gold standard in the world of politics and polling, Ann Selzer's poll. She's been extremely accurate in the last few election cycles, but some of these results are just astounding. So like a 2-to-1 margin with older women, that's insane already. And for her to be winning with the groups of 55 and up with 18 to 34 and then only slightly losing with the 35 to 55 crowd. That's all insane. If that all ends up being true, this is absolutely going to change the state of Iowa. Now, Ann Selzer, I've been waiting for her poll to come out. She was extremely accurate in 2020. In 2020, Trump won the state by about 8 points. And then she showed a 7-point lead in 2016. Trump won by 9 points. She also showed around a 7-point lead as well in that year. So overall, she's been very accurate when other pollsters haven't been as accurate. We've also talked on this channel about how when Trump is on the ballot, a lot of pollsters have difficulty measuring how much the Trump crowd is going to show up, what the voter propensity is going to end up being, and also how Trump impacts down ballot races or overall things. But Ann Selzer's poll has been extremely accurate when it comes to presidential, Senate, and everything races, especially when Trump is on the ballot. So taking that into consideration, that Selzer is the gold standard for polling, that she is pretty accurately in a 1 to 2 point margin predicted the 2020 and 2016 outcomes for Iowa, and that she is now saying that that Harris is going to win by 3 points in the state of Iowa, again, a state that hasn't voted for a Democrat since Obama in 2008 and 2012, and again, even 2016 and 2020, it wasn't a swing state still. Donald Trump still won the state by pretty astounding metrics, so it's insane to see that this state may flip, in Ann Selzer's perspective, completely on its head this election cycle, and if it does, then that's going to change the entire state of the race. I previously in our last election prediction said that Iowa is going to be a likely Republican state again, just going off that somewhere like 8, 9, 10 point margin that I thought is going to be won by Donald Trump, of course. But if that turns out to not be true, then this is all supposed to be likely Republican. But if Harris is able to win Iowa, she would also win Ohio, another state that she won in pretty similar margins, and then all of the swing states. All of them, absolutely all of them. And then probably maybe South Carolina as well. But she would just get an astounding victory. And then also Maine's 2nd district, she would run away with those races. That ends up being the case that she will win Iowa. There's no reality in which Kamala Harris wins Iowa but then loses any of the other Rust Belt states. Now, before people get too excited on the left, I just want to say that I personally do not think that Iowa is going to be won by Kamala Harris. I think that it's still going to remain a likely red state, maybe a lean red state if she's lucky and she's able to make strides with those types of voters in the state of Iowa. But I don't still think that's likely. And one clear example of why it's not going to be likely, we just have to look at President Biden's cabinet itself. So after this poll came out, this is the clip with Jen Psaki, who was his former chief of staff, and then Pete Buttigieg, who's in the presidential cabinet as the Secretary of Transportation. Listen to his reaction to the new Iowa poll.
Out of Iowa, a state you won in a Democratic caucus back in 2020. We all remember that. You also did some local media in Iowa last week, which sent the internet a spur. What do you make of that poll, knowing Iowa as you know it, knowing the electorate as you know it?
Well, yeah, I spent a lot of time in Iowa, and on one level, it's remarkable, and on another level, I could see it. Look, Iowa is full of people who think for themselves, folks who are not afraid to cross party lines, who usually vote this way but decide to vote that way based on the candidates. And, it tracks with the fact that we've seen, as far as I can tell, an unprecedented number of Republicans out there saying, hey, this time, you got to vote for the Democrat. So, look, it's only one poll. You don't want to get carried away, but if you do live and breathe this stuff, you know that this might be the most famous name in polling, certainly in Iowa, and somebody who's extremely rigorous. So I think what that tells us is not just what could happen in Iowa, but what is happening across the country. And I've got to tell you, and I say this in all humility because nobody really nobody knows anything for sure until the election ends. But it is consistent with how it feels right now on the ground in Michigan. I'm right now at a field office in Ingham County.
Okay, I think that we got the gist of what he's trying to say here. But listen, this is one of the sponsors of this campaign. He's one of the ones that's working on the ground actively for the Harris Walz campaign, and even he's not getting him ahead of himself too much with this poll. He could have run away with this poll saying that it's going to mean great things for the election. Of course, there are going to be political ramifications to that, but overall, from his reaction of him being like, I could see it, as they use in this quote up here, that he's not too sure, that he's like, maybe it turns out to be true, who knows, but that he's shaky on this. I think even he himself doesn't really believe that this poll is accurate. I don't think that Kamala Harris is going to win the state of Iowa by 3%, and that it goes to show with other polling as well. If we look at 538, it shows that the new Emerson College poll shows that Trump is going to win the state by 9 points. Emerson is also an extremely accurate polling agency, and this was done even more recently than the October one. Though again, a few days difference between the two, I don't think is going to impact it all that much. Additionally, the Seltzer poll also has Kennedy in the mix, and Kennedy is going to be on the ballot in Iowa. But if people are smart and they know that Kennedy's not even a possibility to win, and then that he's already endorsed Donald Trump, then that 3% could migrate over to Trump, probably would migrate over to Trump, and then be a split. And then even with a margin of error, I think that Trump would win, even if in Seltzer's prediction, if Kennedy was taken out of the equation. Looking at other sites as well, Nate Silver's bulletin. Nate Silver, I also think, is one of the best pollsters in the country. He shows that Trump is going to win the state by 3 points steadily, and I think, again, it could be even more than that, and his margin of error I don't think is listed here, but I think we can assume that's probably like 2 to 3% or something like that. And then the RCP, they also just have the same Emerson Des Moines college polls, so we're not exactly sure on their average, because not many people have polled the state of Iowa, because we didn't expect it to be necessarily a swing state or something that would be highly contested. So overall, I think that even though Seltzer is a very amazing pollster in the state of Iowa, and she's very accurate in the past, I don't think that this year it's going to hold up. I think this year there are a lot of things that are changing. Kamala Harris is running behind generic Democrat in many of the election predictions and scenarios that are being drawn up. So I don't think that she's going to be able to get this 3-point percentage. I also think that it could have been some error in methodology with the 808 voters or something like that. But overall, I think that the Emerson College poll will be much more likely what we see on election day than that. Even though I think it's exciting to see this variety in polls, I don't think it's going to be accurate, and I don't think Iowa is definitely not going to go to Harris, and the rest of these states are still going to be toss-up states that are extremely going to be down to the tens of thousands of votes probably. Also, this is supposed to be a lean state, yes. And then South Carolina as well. So yeah, I'm not exactly sure about the rest of these states, but Iowa, I'm pretty sure, is going to be going red. So thank you for watching, and watch out for our next video coming soon.